All right, strap in, because today we're not just scratching the surface. We're taking a fucking sledgehammer to some of the most stubborn, intellectually lazy, and frankly bullshit ideas about human history.
Yeah, the ones you hear all the time.
Exactly. You know, the ones, those casual, maybe unexamined assumptions that certain groups, through some like mystical inherited superiority, just happen to develop more stuff, better tech, grander civilizations.
Right, the idea that some people were just born with more historical mojo or something.
Mojo, yeah, that's it. That's the kind of simplistic, utterly bankrupt narrative we're demolishing right here, right now.
And it's not just simplistic, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Seriously. These narratives, they often get recycled, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not, to, rationalize existing power imbalances.
Or just to make people feel smug about their own past.
Exactly. Smug superiority. But if you're actually willing to, look at the evidence, to really dig into the relentless forces that shaped our world,
Yeah.
well, that entire house of cards doesn't just collapse
Nah, it disintegrates. Poof. Gone.
into dust. Because you see the obvious, almost brutal logic of it all. It makes surprising sense.
And it all kind of kicks off with one of the most disarmingly simple, yet, wow, profoundly challenging questions ever asked. Picture this. 1972. Hot Beach, New Guinea.
Yeah.
A local politician, a guy named Yali, he's walking with a visiting Western biologist, Jared Diamond, actually.
Right.
And Yali, he's looking at the planes flying overhead, the manufactured goods, all the sheer cargo arriving from the West, turns to this white scientist and asks him, just straight up, no bullshit, just genuine curiosity.
He asks, why is it that you white people developed so much cargo and brought it to New Guinea, but we black people had little cargo of our own?
Boom, that question. That, my friends, is the starting pistol for this entire deep dive. It's not about intelligence. It's not about inherent superiority or some genetic lottery. It's about something way more fundamental.
Something staring us in the face for millennia.
Yeah, a set of brutal truths about us, about human nature and how we interact with this planet.
And that question, it sounds so innocent, right? But it's a direct, unfiltered challenge to the whole narrative of global inequality, past and present.
Totally. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality of why stuff, wealth, power, tech advantage is distributed the way it is across continents and not some other way.
Like, why wasn't it the indigenous peoples of the Americas or Aboriginal Australians who sailed across the oceans?
Bringing their diseases and advanced weapons.
Yes. And ultimately colonizing Europe. Historians, for too long, have kind of sidestepped this question.
Yeah, deemed it too hard or just focused on, the rise of Eurasia in isolation, like it happened in a vacuum.
But you can't understand any society without understanding the grand tapestry of all human societies. They're all woven together by these deep, persistent historical forces.
So our mission today, strip away all the polite, comfortable narratives. Forget the sanitized history lectures.
No delicate strolls through ancient texts today.
Hell no. We're going back to first principles, peeling back layers of history like an archaeologist digging through millennia of hard-packed earth.
Looking for the absolute, non-changing core of what truly drove human development.
Zero soft pedaling, just the raw, unapologetic truths of how we as a species got to where we are now.
And honestly, by the end of this, things that seemed incredibly complex, these huge, seemingly unexplainable gaps, they'll just click.
Yeah, click into place with such stunning, almost embarrassing common sense.
You might actually snort with laughter. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's about finding that brutal, undeniable wisdom embedded in our shared past.
The kind of wisdom that once you see it, once you get these foundational mechanics, you just can't unsee it.
And it's not about hard thinking, really. It's about recognizing the utterly simple, persistent drivers of, well, everything we do.
Right, let's not waste another second. We're diving headfirst into the primordial stew, that crucible of early human existence.
Back to the beginning.
Because here's the unvarnished truth. Before the last ice age finally packed its shit and retreated, roughly 13,000 years ago, around 11,000 BC, every human society on Earth was pretty much operating on a level playing field.
Every single one. That's key.
We're talking hunter-gatherers, from the windswept steppes of, say, Siberia, to the deep forests of the Amazon, to the plains of Australia, even the river valleys of the Fertile Crescent.
No empires, no iPhones glued to faces.
No goddamn bureaucracy making you file TPS reports. Just humans everywhere trying to survive with what? Wits, tools, social bonds. That's it.
And that baseline is so critical for understanding everything that follows. Before 11,000 BC, wherever your ancestors lived, they were in small nomadic bands, maybe a few dozen people.
Tiny groups.
Yeah. Lives revolving around finding food foraging plants, roots, berries, nuts, or coordinating hunts for whatever game was around.
Basic survival.
Their tech was basic, but, ingenious for the time. Stone tools for cutting, scraping, shaping, fire for warmth, cooking, protection.
Standard toolkit.
And crucially, they already had the brain that had gone through its great leap forward. This profound cognitive revolution, maybe 50,000 to 100,000 years ago.
The hardware upgrade.
Exactly. Anatomically perfecting the vocal stuff for modern language, unlocking the full spectrum of creativity, abstract thought. Like when we look at those cave paintings in Lascaux,
Bulls, the horses. Amazing stuff.
astonishing skill and perspective. We're seeing the work of minds as modern, as capable, as complex as ours. They weren't primitive. They were our intellectual equals, just in a totally different world.
So picture it like a global elementary school playground right before the first bell. Every kid's got the same basic kit, a sharp rock, fire, and a brain that's a finely tuned problem-solving machine. That's it.
No inherent advantages.
None. And this point, this foundational equality is absolutely vital. It means, let me be crystal goddamn clear. Any vast differences in development we see today, wealth, tech, societal complexity, are not because some groups were born inherently superior or less intelligent.
It is absolutely not about race.
If you're still clinging to that intellectually bankrupt, racist bullshit of biological determinism, you are profoundly missing the entire fucking point of human history.
Right.
And frankly, you're just plain wrong.
Totally wrong. The science is settled, and the historical record screams it.
The idea that certain races have innate intellectual advantages, it's not just morally repulsive, it's scientifically indefensible.
Absolutely. Take New Guineans, for example. In their traditional societies, they're navigating incredibly complex kinship networks. They understand this intricate taxonomy of thousands of plants and animals.
Making life or death decisions daily.
Yeah, in a really challenging environment. They often seem far more alert or, smarter in those specific contexts than your average Westerner dropped in there.
They have a different kind of intelligence, highly developed for their world.
Exactly. It shows intelligence isn't some fixed, racially defined thing. It's dynamic, context-dependent, shaped by the demands of your environment. Change the environment. The expression of intelligence adapts.
Okay, so if everyone started at the same damn place, same hardware in their skulls, what was the first real game changer? What ripped humanity onto these wildly different paths?
Food production, unequivocally. Agriculture and animal domestication.
And this wasn't just like a menu upgrade, oh, let's swap berries for wheat today.
No, it was a complete systemic overhaul of humanity's entire operating system. It didn't just change what people ate, it changed everything.
Everything.
Indeed. The core of it just boils down to simple biology and economics. For most of our history, we lived on wild stuff, but most wild species are useless to us as food.
Right, think about it. Indigestible bark, poisonous berries evolved specifically not to be eaten.
Low nutrition jellyfish, tiny nuts that take forever to gather for hardly any calories. Most biomass on land is wood and leaves. Our gut can't handle it.
Can't eat trees. Shame.
So the huge breakthrough was finding or, developing edible, high-calorie sables, stuff that could actually support larger populations.
And it wasn't like some dude had a light bulb moment, I shall invent wheat.
Not at all. It was an evolutionary dance. Pragmatic selection by our ancestors, generation after generation.
And the math here is just brutally, unyieldingly simple. More reliable calories equals more people. Period.
Forget the prestige of hunting a rhino. Risky. Maybe happens once a month if you're lucky.
Yeah, and maybe the rhino wins sometimes.
Right. But reliably planting and harvesting a field of wheat or raising a flock of sheep, that gives you consistent, scalable, predictable calories. Hunting and gathering just can't compete on that scale.
This surplus, this density of food energy, it allowed populations to just explode.
And that population density, that's the foundation, the absolute prerequisite for almost every other societal development that comes next.
And the shift, it also fundamentally forced people to stay put. Sedentary living.
Absolutely. If you're investing months of labor into planting, tending, harvesting crops, you can't just pack up the whole village and chase some animals.
Your food's rooted, so you're rooted.
You're tied to your land. And this fixed residence, staying in one place, it's essential for accumulating stuff beyond which you can carry.
Finally get some furniture.
Yeah, maybe. But also for developing complex tech that needs workshops, fixed infrastructure, and eventually building public works, irrigation canals, temples, walls, all that characterizes early civilizations.
And it's not just theory, right? You see it even today. Missionaries, governments, when they first contact nomadic tribes, what are the first two things they try to do?
Pacify them. Stop the fighting and get them to settle down.
Why settle down? Easier to find, sure. Easier to preach to, maybe.
But crucially, far easier to administer and control. Their resources become accessible. Their labor can be organized. Settled people are governable people.
And once you have those food surpluses, once people are stuck in one place, not everyone needs to be out farming or foraging all damn day.
Bingo. Specialization happens.
Suddenly you've got scribes, craftspeople, priests, warriors, and eventually the first bureaucrats, administrators, kings.
The whole shebang.
And this is also where those egalitarian bands, where everyone knew everyone, start to crack. You get social hierarchies, clear ones.
People with fancy imported goods, intricate jade, hammered bronze mirrors.
While other people are building the damn pyramids or digging the ditches or fighting the wars.
It's the stark beginning of the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Fundamentally reshapes who's on top, who has power, who does the grunt work.
It's an unstoppable chain reaction, isn't it?
Completely. Food production leads to sedentary life. Sedentary life allows larger, denser populations.
More people, especially strangers living together, means more conflict, more need for rules.
Right, which drives more complex social structures to handle disputes, make decisions.
Which allows specialization, because not everyone needs to farm.
And these specialists, freed from the daily food grind, they can dedicate themselves to developing new tech, refining old ones, making farming even better, or creating totally new tools and goods.
It's a feedback loop, escalating, building momentum over millennia.
Exactly. It just keeps rolling.
Okay, so we've set the stage. Everyone started equal, then food production hit like a meteor. But why did it happen where it happened, and when? This brings us to what I love calling geographic luck.
Ah, yes. The unfair hand dealt by Mother Nature.
Totally arbitrary. And it's the single biggest factor setting the stage for all the global disparities that follow. It's kind of infuriating.
It really is in its simplicity. The Mediterranean climate zone of Western Eurasia, especially the Fertile Crescent, modern Iraq, Syria, Turkey, parts of Iran, Israel.
The cradle of civilization stuff?
It hit the absolute biological jackpot. It had this overwhelmingly concentrated abundance of the world's 56 heaviest seeded wild grass species.
56, that's specific.
Yeah. We're talking the direct ancestors of our biggest crops. Wheat, barley, peas, lentils, chickpeas, flax. These weren't just random weeds. They were pre-selected candidates for domestication. Large, nutritious seeds, often self-pollinating, which is easier for early farmers, grew quickly, and crucially, less likely to be bitter, poisonous, or to shatter their seeds too early, which is good for wild plants, but terrible for farmers.
So nature did the first round of R&D.
Pretty much. It wasn't human genius. It was raw, unadulterated biological lottery luck. That region got the winning ticket.
Imagine rolling a D56 die. Everyone else gets tiny bitter berries or acorns that take 10 years to grow. Fertile Crescent, roll again, super profitable, easy grow, high nutrition grain, every time.
It's just a damn lottery. And then humans, guided by just being hungry, make it even more obvious. Early farmers weren't botanists with spreadsheets.
No master plan.
No, they just stumbled on these wild grains. Picked the ones with the biggest seeds, the ones that weren't bitter, the ones that didn't shatter and spill everywhere when they tried to harvest them.
Or the ones that grew fast and close together.
Right. They were unknowingly selecting for mutant traits that favored us over the plant's own wild survival. It was an accidental, unconscious, evolutionary partnership.
We didn't invent agriculture in some flash of genius. We slowly, pragmatically stumbled into it, guided by the most basic human desire, an easier meal.
The wild almond is such a perfect, brutal example. Most wild almonds have amygdalin, breaks down into cyanide.
Eat enough, you die. Simple.
So how do we domesticate them? Well, occasionally a mutant tree pops up that lacks the poison. In the wild, birds and animals find these delicious mutants and devour all the seeds. They don't spread.
Bad for the mutant tree.
Right, but then along comes a hungry human, maybe a kid nibbling around, finds one of these rare, non-bitter almonds. What do?
Plant the seeds.
Exactly. Maybe first accidentally in their garbage heap where they sprout, then later intentionally in orchards. It wasn't genius. It was incremental, unconscious selection, driven by the simple urge to not die from your snack.
And you instantly see why other plants just didn't make the cut early on. Acorns. Oak trees grow too damn slow. A decade or more for a crop.
And good luck beating the squirrels. They're way better at harvesting acorns than we are.
Wild strawberries. Too tiny. So much work for almost no calories.
It's not that ancient farmers were stupid or unobservant. They were just pragmatic. making basic cost-benefit choices with their limited time and energy.
Why bust your ass for a handful of tiny berries when you could grow something that feeds the whole family? Seems
It
obvious.
is survival-driven logic, and this initial massive advantage in suitable wild species. It then compounds like crazy when you look at the continental axis.
Right, the shape of the land masses.
Look at a map. Eurasia is huge, roughly 8,000 miles long, mostly stretched east-west.
Like a giant flat highway.
The ultimate superhighway for spreading crops and animals. Stuff domesticated in one spot, like the Fertile Crescent, could spread east or west across vast distances relatively easily. Why?
Same latitude, similar climate.
Exactly. Similar day length, temperatures, rainfall patterns. Wheat that grows happily in Ireland is genetically programmed for that kind of climate. It'll also be happy in Japan. No major climate barriers along that east-west axis.
Now contrast that with the Americas or Africa, primarily north-south.
Total different story. Imagine taking Mexican corn, adapted to its specific climate, and planting it in Canada.
It sprouts in March, finds 10 feet of snow, dies.
Or even if it's somehow magically reprogrammed to sprout in June, it would grow at its leisurely Mexican pace.
And then freeze to death in September before making any actual corn.
Right. This north-south axis created massive, often insuperable barriers. Climate zones, deserts like the Sahara, tropical rainforests, even disease environments, they all change dramatically as you move north or south. Agricultural diffusion becomes incredibly difficult and slow.
So Eurasia got the multi-lane paved superhighway for its agricultural revolution. Innovations, crops, animals spread like wildfire.
While the Americas and Africa got a brutal, nearly impossible obstacle course, a series of climatic mountains and environmental deserts filtering everything out.
Making sure food production packages couldn't easily migrate.
This fundamental difference in axis meant vastly different rates of development. It led directly to the huge disparities we see by, say, AD 1500. And it profoundly shaped everything that came after conquests, power dynamics, the whole lot.
And these foundational differences, they didn't just stay in the fields, they snowballed.
Oh, yeah. Accelerated right into what we can call the four horsemen of conquest.
The proximate causes, the immediate reasons why some societies did the conquering and others got utterly fucked.
Guns, germs, steel, and writing.
Let's start with guns, or maybe broader technology.
Right. And the first thing to ditch is the heroic theory of invention. That idea of the lone genius Watt, Edison just poofing an invention into existence.
Comforting myth. Totally misleading.
Technology in the real brutal world develops cumulatively. It's a slow, hard climb up a ladder of knowledge, each rung built on the one below.
Stone Age farmers didn't just leap to steel.
No way. First, they mastered soft metals like copper, learned its properties, how to work it. Millennia later, they figured out alloying copper with tin makes bronze stronger.
Took thousands of years.
Thousands of years of accumulated experience with metallurgy before they finally unlocked iron and eventually steel. Each step needed trial and error, specialized knowledge, and a society that could support the artisans doing it.
And here's that other mind bender. Inventions often find their best uses after they exist, not to meet some specific need people predicted.
Exactly. James Watt designed his steam engine mostly to pump water out of mines. Significant, sure.
But its real impact
Came later, powering cotton mills, then locomotives, boats, utterly transforming industry and transport in ways Watt likely never imagined.
or the QWERTY keyboard, designed to slow typists down to stop old typewriters jamming.
Not to optimize speed. Yet, because it was first, he got entrenched. Now we're all stuck with a shitty layout because it won't go away.
It shows that once tech exists, human ingenuity, driven by desire for efficiency or power or whatever, finds uses for it, often beyond the original intent.
And this also shows that societies aren't equally receptive to new stuff. Receptivity changes. Look at Japan and firearms.
Portuguese bring guns in the 16th century. Japan adopts them initially.
But then during the Edo period, they largely reject them. As an isolated island, they focus on samurai swords tradition. Guns seem dishonorable, disruptive,
They could afford that choice. For a while.
until Commodore Perry's fleet shows up in 1853, bristling with cannons, steam engines, forcefully convinces them their traditions, however honorable, were no match for modern military tech.
Brutal lesson. Ignore tech advances at your peril.
It's like that artisanal baker refusing an industrial oven for his authentic brick one.
Then get steamrolled by Starbucks and Panera opening on every damn corner.
Exactly. You can cling to cultural purity, but you'll get your ass handed to you if someone else shows up with better tech and more ruthlessness.
Europe, though, totally different. Fragmented. Hundreds of competing kingdoms, principalities, city-states.
Constant, relentless competition. If one king decided to ban guns or ignore some new tech.
His gun-toting neighbor would promptly roll over him.
Right. This constant pressure meant technology, especially military tech, flourished and evolved continuously in Europe,
Yeah.
even though it was smaller than unified China, precisely because no single power could stop innovation everywhere.
A vicious, self-perpetuating arms race. Keeps everyone on their toes.
Next horseman, the silent killer.
Well,
Germs.
the invisible weapon.
The vast majority of epidemic diseases that have wrecked human populations, smallpox, measles, flu, tuberculosis, malaria, they're zoonotic.
Meaning they came from animals. Our domesticated animals, especially herd animals.
This is where that disturbing story of the doctor and the sheep comes in. It perfectly illustrates the proximity principle, however messed up.
Young doctor, patient with weird pneumonia.
Man eventually confesses in distress to repeated sexual contact with sheep on his farm. Rare case, obviously.
But it makes the point vividly.
It underscores how close human-animal proximity, especially with large, dense populations of both, creates the perfect storm for pathogens to jump species, adapt, and become human-specific killers.
Our furry and feathered friends. Deadly gifts that keep on giving.
It's not just a funny, fucked-up story. It's a foundational truth. Hunter-gatherer bands, small, mobile, spread out. Too sparse to sustain epidemics.
Disease rips through, kills most, then dies out. Not enough new hosts nearby.
But once you get settled, dense, food-producing populations, living practically on top of their own waste, cheek by jowl with their pigs, cattle, chickens, sheep.
You create the perfect festering petri dish.
For microbes to jump species, evolve into human killers, and then spread like fucking wildfire through populations with no prior exposure.
And this gave Europeans this huge accidental advantage.
Thousands of years living with these childhood diseases, measles, mumps, smallpox, flu, they developed genetic resistance over generations or got antibodies from surviving infections as kids.
So when they arrived in the Americas, Australia, the Pacific,
They unleashed invisible biological warfare without even meaning to, most of the time. The native populations, isolated for millennia without those big herd animals.
had zero immunity, no genetic resistance built up.
The results were apocalyptic, up to 95% wiped out by smallpox, measles, flu, typhus, long before most even saw a European soldier. It's horrific, but undeniable.
It's like sending an army into battle knowing the enemy has no armor and is allergic to the air you exhale. Then you just cough.
It's not fair, not moral, but it's a brutal fact of history. Empires weren't just built with swords and guns. They were paved by microbes.
The silent killer reveals how profoundly unfair and arbitrary history can be.
Third horseman, steel, advanced metallurgy, superior weapons and tools.
Building on that tech accumulation idea.
Right. Developing sophisticated metallurgy, copper, then bronze, then iron, finally hardened steel needed specialized artisans.
Guys who didn't have to farm or hunt all day.
Exactly. That kind of specialization, freeing up labor for complex, non-food tasks, was only possible in societies with substantial food surpluses from agriculture.
No food surplus, no fancy metal workers.
Without that caloric base, you can't support metallurgists, scribes, priests, armies. And it was sequential, like all tech. Painfully slow.
Nobody just woke up and started forging steel swords from rocks.
Iron came after bronze, which came after copper. It's a ladder. Each step needs the previous knowledge, plus more complex stuff. Hotter furnaces, bellows, special fuels, deep understanding of materials.
So, New World societies, like in the Andes, they were just starting to master bronze when Europeans showed up.
Pretty much. A huge achievement in itself. But Europeans arrived already armed with hardened steel.
Not a failure of intelligence by indigenous people, just a difference in the tech timeline.
An unavoidable consequence of those earlier agricultural and geographic advantages. Simple cause and effect, stretched over millennia.
Okay, fourth horseman.
Writing, the power of information. Accurate, persuasive transmission across space and time. Huge.
Detailed permanent records. Laws, religious texts, military plans, economic accounts, admin decrees.
Absolutely crucial for running large, complex states and empires. You just can't do it with only oral tradition.
Imagine trying to run Amazon or Google today just by talking to people and remembering stuff. Impossible.
Total logistical nightmare. Writing is the database, the email, the project management software for civilizations.
It's the persistent memory, the blueprint.
And here's a cool little tidbit showing its pragmatic, almost accidental evolution. Writing didn't always start as this grand bureaucratic tool.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the earliest preserved Greek alphabetic inscriptions,
Hmm.
scratched onto Athenian wine jugs for dancing contests or drinking cups.
Like party favors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff like, whoever dances best wins this vase, or drink from this cup, desire Aphrodite. Silly stuff. Only later were these early alphabets co-opted for public or bureaucratic purposes.
For laws, inventories, histories, the heavy lifting.
Shows how profound tools often emerge from humble, even playful origins, then get repurposed for statecraft.
And that repurposing is key. Writing systems, they only popped up independently a few times. Sumer, Mesoamerica, China.
And they mostly arose in early states, specifically to serve bureaucratic and administrative needs. To keep track of taxes, grain stores, laws.
And the complexity of early writing often meant only a literate elite could use it.
Further cementing their power, their control over information flow. The transition from party cup slogans to vital state records shows that relentless drive for organization and control as societies get bigger and more complex.
Okay, so we've covered the primordial soup, the level playing field, the geographic luck kicking off agriculture. We hit the four horsemen guns, germs, steel, writing the immediate tools of conquest. Now let's get into the messy, glorious, sometimes truly fucked up tangle of human nature and global forces.
Where societies scale up.
Yeah, that unavoidable escalation from tiny groups to massive, complex states.
Anthropologists have a useful framework here, progressing through four main types of society. You start with bands.
Small groups, few dozen people, usually related, egalitarian, conflicts handled informally, shaming, maybe temporary exile.
Then tribes, hundreds of people, often organized into clans. Slightly more fixed settlements, but still mostly egalitarian, kin-based conflict resolution. Everyone still pretty much knows everyone.
But then you hit chiefdoms, thousands of people, and this is where shit gets real.
This is where the stranger problem explodes.
How the hell do you get thousands of unrelated people living together without constantly killing each other or stealing each other's stuff?
Can't rely on Aunt Mildred to break up a fight when you don't know who Aunt Mildred is, or she's even related to the guys fighting?
Right. This growing population density, this influx of non-kin, it creates this urgent need for centralized authority, formal laws. You need a system.
Replacing that informal kin-based pressure, you need someone to say, hey, stop stabbing him, or the guys with bigger spears, backed by the chief and maybe the gods, will fuck you up.
The birth of formal coercion, not out of malice, but necessity for social order.
Exactly. And from chiefdoms, you get states. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, eventually billions.
Centralized government, written laws, police, armies, often a literate elite.
Full-blown, institutionalized structures designed explicitly to manage huge populations, resolve conflicts between strangers, coordinate massive projects, defend against outsiders.
It's the unavoidable result of more people crammed together and the complexity that brings. Human nature drives us to seek order, but also creates the conditions needing these powerful structures.
And let's be brutally honest about one pervasive, unchanging truth underlying all these centralized governments. Ancient chiefdoms, modern states, doesn't matter.
Lay it on us.
They all function, to some degree, as a kleptocracy.
Kleptocracy, rule by thieves. Yeah, I said it too. It's not a judgment, it's observation.
It's fundamentally about transferring wealth, resources, labor from commoners to an elite. That's just how it works.
The crucial difference between a wise statesman like, say, George Washington and a robber baron dictator like Mobutu of Zaire.
Isn't if that transfer happens?
Yeah.
It's just the percentage. The percentage of the tribute taken from producers that the elite keeps for themselves.
Versus the percentage that actually gets redistributed back to the commoners as public services, defense, roads, maybe some famine relief.
It's about how much the commoners will tolerate, how much they feel they're getting back for their tribute. That's what separates a legitimate state from an outright predatory one in people's minds.
It's a brutal, unchanging truth about power structures. If you don't get that, you're living in a fucking fantasy land.
It truly is the fundamental trade-off.
Yeah.
We as humans want the benefits. Protection. Big infrastructure projects no individual could build. Famine relief. Justice systems. Expensive services.
But the cost is always funneling wealth and power upwards. To an elite.
So what makes this inherent kleptocracy palatable? What legitimizes it? Often it's institutionalized religion.
The opiate of the masses.
Well, maybe. In small bands and tribes, supernatural beliefs weren't necessarily about justifying central authority. More personal guidance, explaining nature.
But as societies got bigger,
Religion got institutionalized. Chiefs claimed divine descent. Priests became intermediaries with powerful gods. These spiritual justifications validated the elite's power.
Promised good harvests, victory in war, maybe eternal salvation.
In exchange for obedience and tribute. Yeah, it transformed potential pure coercion into a perceived divine mandate, made the kleptocracy acceptable, even desirable to many.
Okay, now let's talk about something fascinating, almost counterintuitive. Optimal fragmentation.
China versus Europe gets really interesting here.
China, huge geographically, culturally, achieved political unity remarkably early, kept it for long stretches,
Meaning a single central government could make massive sweeping decisions.
like abandoning those amazing treasure fleets in the 15th century, just stopped exploring overseas for a century.
Or more recently, shutting down all schools during the Cultural Revolution. One decision at the top impacts everyone.
This unity, powerful in some ways, could also stifle innovation. One bad decision tanks the whole country's progress. No internal competition to force a change.
Contrast that with Europe. Smaller, but stubbornly fragmented, always.
A perpetually chaotic patchwork of hundreds of competing kingdoms, principalities, duchies, city-states.
And this chronic disunity, ironically, became its greatest engine for innovation.
That was-
If one king decided to ban printing presses or ignore firearm development,
His neighbor would just keep going, embrace it, and soon be at an advantage, maybe even take over.
Europe couldn't afford to fall behind. There was always someone next door ready to exploit weakness or seize an advantage. It was a relentless Darwinian pressure cooker for innovation, especially military tech, driven by competition.
So it suggests there's a sweet spot, a Goldilocks zone for progress, an optimal intermediate degree of fragmentation.
Exactly. Too unified, like China sometimes. One bad decision kills innovation continent-wide. Too fragmented, maybe like ancient India with countless isolated kingdoms. You might lack scale, cohesion, pressure for big projects, or sustained development.
The ideal is somewhere in the middle. Enough unity for big stuff, enough competition to stop stagnation.
It's a delicate balance history seems to show is crucial. Brutal wisdom there.
And this optimal fragmentation idea, it's super relevant today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In our globalized world, we're constantly debating the balance between central control and decentralized innovation. National governments, global corporations, the internet itself.
Understanding how historical fragmentation or unity played out gives us crucial, maybe surprising insights into these modern problems.
Shows there isn't one perfect system. It's a dynamic tension that drives or hinders progress.
But let's keep it real. Not everything is perfectly predictable by geography and resources alone.
Definitely not.
Yep.
There are always cultural wildcards and the random impact of individuals or events.
Yeah, minor cultural features, societal quirks, or just the personal decisions of powerful people can have huge unpredictable effects, especially locally or short-term.
Like, think about Hitler almost dying in a car crash in 1930. How different might WWII and the whole 20th century have been?
Or the specific religious fervor of one explorer pushing further than others. History isn't just a machine.
It's a messy, chaotic human drama. Millions of variables, some totally random.
And this messiness highlights the historian's challenge, right? And maybe the beauty of studying history.
Historians, they're like ecologists or astronomers. They can predict large-scale trends pretty well, like the sex ratio of the next 1,000 babies.
But they can't predict individual events, the sex of your baby. Whether that specific acorn grows into an oak? Nope.
History is a complex adaptive system. Countless interconnected variables, feedback loops, more like studying weather or ecosystems than physics.
It's about observation, comparison, looking for patterns and causes over huge timescales, natural experiments.
But that complexity doesn't make it less scientific or less vital to understand, not at all.
And this all culminates in one inescapable, really heavy truth, the heavy hand of history.
Yeah. The course history took, those deep currents flowing from way back 8,000 BC, they still lie heavily on us today, shaping the present, dictating a lot of the future.
Countries with long histories of agriculture, state societies, the ones who rode that geographic lottery, built complex structures.
Even if they have fewer natural resources now, they tend to have significantly higher per capita GNP, better institutions, faster growth rates today.
Think resource-poor Japan or South Korea versus, say, parts of New Guinea or the Philippines, despite their natural wealth.
The deep historical roots are still influencing everything. It's staggering.
This isn't just academic ancient history. It profoundly, almost deterministically shapes our present and future.
That long experience with states, complex agriculture, it translates into generations of experienced administrators, entrenched market economies, robust legal systems, institutional knowledge.
Even after you control for things like colonial history or recent wars.
There's a persistent, deep-seated effect. The kind of historical inertia it keeps propelling or hindering nations, shows how fundamental principles of human organization once set echo across millennia.
So what the hell does this all mean for us? We like to think we're in control, but if the game was in so many ways rigged from the start, by geography, by biological luck, by these relentless arbitrary forces, if the hand of history from 8000 BC is still heavy on us,
Are we just passengers? Adrift on some unstoppable deterministic current?
or can we, with this profound, sometimes brutal, often humbling understanding of how the world got this way, these simple, common sense truths about us and the planet, can we finally learn to grab the damn rudder?
Steer the ship of humanity ourselves?
It's a messy story, often unfair, but ultimately there's a logic to it.
And understanding that logic, seeing this brutal wisdom, maybe that's our only real shot at building a different, maybe more equitable future. What do you think?